Barrow, Alaska, the northernmost town in the USA, a native community that hunts whale for subsistence. An election campaign in which offshore oil drilling emerges from Washington to threaten a way of life. From the shores of the Arctic Ocean, I'm Avi Lewis, and this is Inside USA. We're just outside of Barrow, Alaska, more than 500 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, one of the most extreme environments on Earth. 70% of the population here is Inupiaq, the indigenous people of Alaska's North Slope. Ever since Russia sold the territory to the U.S. in 1867, people here have been on the front lines of global politics. In the 1950s, with radar stations scanning the Arctic Ocean for Russian bombers, this community was on the frontier of the Cold War. In the 1970s, the largest oil field in the United States was discovered nearby, putting the Inupiaq people in the middle of the politics of energy. Today, with Arctic ice rapidly retreating, they're on the melting edge of global warming. And in this election campaign, with both parties calling for offshore oil drilling in the Arctic Ocean, people here are once again on the front lines. Here in Barrow, the annual fall whale hunt is about to begin. In a climate like this one, hunting and eating whale is at the center of a subsistence lifestyle. But it's also a living tradition, which we found out pretty quickly when we rolled up here and the people of Barrow, with their famous generosity, let us into their lives. This town in a treeless Arctic landscape may be cold and remote, but it's still very much the USA.
Here we go.
In driving snow and bone-freezing temperatures, it's home field advantage for the only Arctic high school football team in the United States. The Barrow Whalers are playing their first ever playoff game, and their opponents, the Houston Hawks, are being picked apart. At the final whistle, the Whalers have triumphed, 46-18. Their victory puts the town in a celebratory mood on the eve of Barrow's annual fall whale hunt.
It's like getting ready for the Super Bowl. It's like getting ready for the NBA Finals.
Basically what you have is the hand-thrown harpoon, where the tip of the harpoon goes into the whale. As it goes into the whale, it hits the trigger rod. That shoots the bomb into the whale, and...
Not everyone in Barrow has turned out for the football game. Many of the town's Inupiaq whaling captains are making last-minute preparations, readying boats and equipment for the hunt. Crawford Pakutak is among them.
So you throw the harpoon at the most vital spot of the whale as you can. It's exciting. It's something that you know you're looking forward to, and it's not just a hunt for sport. You're going to go out there. You're thinking of what you're going to provide for the community. We as a people hunted the whale since time immemorial.
The whale hunt is at the very center of Inupiaq life, a source not only of food but of culture and identity. The community's calendar has revolved around the hunt for thousands of years. Today, there's a sharp threat to that way of life. Here in Barrow, an election is taking place. Only a few thousand people will cast their votes, but for many of them, the stakes are far higher than in the election that has gripped the country and the rest of the world. The talk on the streets is not about who will be sitting in the White House 6,000 kilometers away, but who will be the next mayor of the North Slope borough. And that is largely because of a debate about the one big issue that overshadows all others.
I'm against offshore drilling because it will disturb the marine mammals.
These forces are beyond the control of the borough and the state of Alaska. They are national security.
I will not trade subsistence, our way of life, for cash.
I believe the best strategy is getting our seat at the table.
Our ocean is not for sale.
The North Slope of Alaska is home to the Prudhoe Bay oil fields, the largest single source of onshore oil in the U.S. But production there is dwindling, and the federal government is looking hungrily at the 26 billion barrels believed to be under the Arctic Ocean. Earlier this year, the U.S. government sold leases to drill in a vast expanse of the Chukchi Sea, an auction that netted $2.7 billion. But there are deep concerns about the safety of drilling offshore and the impact it might have on the bowhead whales, the animals that the Inupiaq people depend on. Mayor Edward Ita sued Shell Oil, as well as the government's Minerals Management Service, and won a temporary ban on the drilling of exploratory wells.
There is too much, that it's too soon and it's going too fast. And together we filed a lawsuit against Shell and MMS. And lo and behold, we got a restraining order and put a stop to the action out there for 2 years.
While Mayor Ita does everything he can to impede offshore oil drilling, his rival, George Amawak, takes a very different approach.
His version is sue in court. Take him to court, and every lawsuit that he's filed, he's lost in the federal district court in the United States of America. Groundless, frivolous lawsuits. Me, I want to sit on the table, lay out a strategic plan so that we have addressed these impacts, so that we address economic opportunities where our native corporations can get contract, jobs, training from the oil and gas industry, and possibly some of the, for example, natural resource gas that we can get from the oil fields.
The bowhead whale is central to our culture up here of the coastal villages of the Inupiaq Eskimo. And any threat to that bowhead is a threat to us.
Before the age of drilling, the world got its oil from whales. But thousands of years before the great whaling ships of the 18th and 19th centuries began decimating the world's whale population, the Inupiaq hunted the bowhead whale, not for sport or for profit, but for food. It's a tradition that continues. In the spring, small skin boats launch off the ice. In the fall hunt, more modern boats and techniques are used. In a community where a carton of milk costs $10 and unemployment is rife, the whale hunt is a matter of survival. Today, there's a worldwide ban on commercial whaling, but limited subsistence hunting is permitted for 9 Alaska Native communities, Barrow among them. There are strict rules and quotas. The Inupiaq keep their catch within sustainable limits, ensuring that the whales, like the culture of whaling, will stick around.
When you put an animal on a shelf with a price tag, you suddenly kick on the image of more whales means more money, and more money means more whales, and you end up in that spiral of profit and catch.
We've never hurt or harmed or put them in any type of danger, ever, because we depend on these mammals and we depend them on a survival basis, you know. Without these animals and without these mammals of our oceans, we wouldn't be here to this very day.
Like the state of Alaska itself, the vast majority of the North Slope's revenues come from onshore oil and gas. Under U.S. law, federal waters begin 3 miles offshore, meaning that revenue from offshore drilling would belong to Washington, and towns like Barrow would be waiting for a trickle-down. Furthermore, the promise of jobs in the oil industry has never really materialized here. Despite the fact that most of Alaska's oil and gas is extracted here on the North Slope, the vast majority of oil workers are from elsewhere. According to the industry itself, of the 1,741 people who work for big oil here, only 4 are residents.
The oil industry came in '68 and promised all kinds of work, but when you look at the oil field, out of the 7,000 man, operation, you don't even find 20 of us in there.
These two would be in the early 40s.
George Edwardson is president of the Inupiaq community of the Arctic Slope. He sees a continuity between the current race for offshore oil and the way Native people in the U.S. have been treated for centuries.
They went into my jurisdiction, into my land, sold the land to the oil industry, and then gave me 1/13 of it and called it a fair settlement.
In the earliest mornings of the day, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, you want to try to get out just at the rise of dawn. You got anticipation brewing inside of your body. You got butterflies in your tummy. You got a little bit of nervousness, but you're going out after this bowhead whale in hopes that this bowhead whale is going to give itself to you. Once you see the blowhole or the breathing spray of a whale, we go, "Agavek." That means whale. The moment of the strike, it's very intensive, really focused, really just right there at the moment. The whaling captain comes up behind the whale. The harpooner at the bow of the boat is on the right side. He doesn't just throw it right away, you know. He aims, he focuses, he waits, and you have that right spot, that target right behind its head. That's when the harpooner throws in his weapon into the whale.
With the fall whale hunt underway, the issue of offshore oil drilling is right on the surface here. But no matter what their political preference, everyone here is terrified of the worst-case scenario, an oil spill in spring, when the whales migrate through the treacherous ice-filled water.
Ice is very dangerous in the Arctic. It could crush just about anything.
If the oil industry is going to be drilling out there, they have yet to show us a way that they can clean up an oil spill of any size in ice-infested waters.
Do not touch or do anything with where the salt water touches the fresh water, because that is where our food chain begins. If you destroy that in time, we will all be, going hungry. And a perfect example of that is the Exxon Valdez spill. That's almost 20 years and the herring has not come back.
Day one of the whaling season in Barrow is coming to a close. Only a few boats have braved the rough seas, captains eager to catch the first whale. As word spreads through town, the whole community comes down to the beach to watch and wait. When the first whale is caught, anticipation gives way to celebration. This may be subsistence hunting. It is clearly something much more as well.
It's always an exciting time. This is one of the activities that pulls our community together, despite family differences, political differences. We know how to work together to achieve large goals.
It doesn't matter what time of the day or night, because we're gathering in pure excitement and joy at the thought of being able to feed the community.
The whale has provided food, shelter, and a sense of spirituality and a connection there with the people. And it was important, and it is still important today. Ways and means might have changed, but the cultural aspect of it has not changed.
Coming up on Inside USA, more on the politics of oil in Alaska.